Hey, what's up, guys? This is Marseille, aka the Property Pastor, here with Kingdom Legacy Builders, where our mission is to help everyday people like you and me to build a lasting legacy for our children and our children's children using real estate and wealth building principles. Today, I want to do a quick video talking about my first flip experience, and it didn't sell. So I want to talk to you guys about it didn't sell, why I think it didn't sell, and what I did about it. And it's really important that you have multiple exit strategies. You know, when I looked at this property, I purchased it, with private money, really, easy rehab activity. The market was so red hot. I just said, hey, let's just throw it on the market. Give me, my agent came out, give me some numbers. Let's sell it quick profit, put it into another deal. But it took longer than I thought it was going to take, and it didn't sell. So I want to talk today about what I did about it, how I used multiple extra strategies, how I became creative to make a really profitable, strong deal. But before I get started, before I jump into it, if you haven't subscribed to the channel yet, make sure you do it now. Hit that subscribe button. We are trying to grow this channel. We're adding content, adding value every single week to help people in their journey. I am documenting my own journey. I've been at this thing for about 4 years, and right now I'm up to property number 14. I have a portfolio that is mixed from small multifamily. I have a few rooming houses that I rent out individual rooms, and some single family homes. So I'm documenting my journey, sharing that with you, but make sure you hit that subscribe button if you haven't already. We are trying to grow the channel, trying to get the word out to more and more people so that they can build that legacy. So let's talk about this deal, right? We are in the midst of a housing boom here in the US, and right now houses are sitting on the, within days, sometimes, days or weeks, properties are gone. You can't find these things, they're getting snatched up. So I had purchased this property for about 75 grand. It's a 3-bedroom, 1-bed house. It's actually located in Newport News. If you want to see a walkthrough of the house, you can check out the link over here, and we'll kind of show you can kind of see the overview of the house, some of the work we did, and the total walkthrough. But in the house, right, I bought it for $75K through one of my private money lenders. Reached out to him and said, hey, I've got a deal. Doesn't really require a lot of rehab. This was our first deal together. So we went into the property, purchased it for 75, put about 15K in repairs, and then I had my agent come by and take a look at the house to do a private, what they call a private valuation. So basically an estimate of value, what they thought it could sell for. So my agent looked at it and they gave me a price of $185. Now, as you look at the math, it's a no-brainer, right? I'm into the property, 75K, 15 in repair, so it's at 90, and then go around and list it at 185. Man, that's a home run. Take it every day of the week, and none of my own money. The other 15K for repairs, that came from a whole nother money source that I had as well. If you're interested in learning in private money, check out my videos there. We'll put a link in the description so you can check that out too. But raised total, all private money for this deal. Didn't use any of my own funds, what we call OEM, other people's money. OPM rather, other people's money. So I was looking at, when I ran my numbers, I figured I could make at least $60,000 in profit. And that's, assuming that there was going to be repairs that I have to make above and beyond, assuming that, the real estate, the agent commissions of 6%, the capital gains taxes, all that kind of stuff. I was thinking about 60K. So that's really good, where I didn't put a dime of my own money into a deal. So we listed the property back in I think it was September. We listed the property and got a little bit of activity, a few reviews. Folks looked at the property and they said, well, I really was hoping it had a little bit more of this. I didn't like the, where the 3rd bedroom was at, or I didn't like the fact that it had 1 bathroom, just general feedback. And what we were trying to do was a quick turn and burn to get a quick transaction, because there's just so little housing inventory. But this house sat longer than, I wanted it to. Well, long story short, finally we got the property under contract. Maybe after about, I don't know, maybe 2 months, a month or two, we got under contract. Several showings, got the property under contract, and we actually had done 2 price reductions since we first listed it. So we went from 185 and we went under contract for 175. Now, obviously, as a part of the due diligence process, you have home inspections, you have appraisals, things of that nature. So during the home inspection, right, obviously things are going to be found. I have never had a home inspection come through with nothing found. I never had one and say, yep, all things good, right? So we had a home inspection. It's an older house, right? So with the older house, there was old pipe old drain pipe that was wrapped in asbestos, right? So they're going to note that on the inspection report. A lot of times folks will just say, yes, it's an old house, just leave it alone, don't bother with the asbestos, right? The other thing was the water supply lines were galvanized. There were things like the house didn't have adequate insulation underneath it. In this particular buyer, they really got scared away. So they looked at those things, and we're telling them, hey, we can fix those things. That's really not a big deal. We'll go through and fix them, and then we'll sell you the house. Well, long story short, they kind of backed out of the their offer. They withdrew their offer, and they just said, hey, I don't want to deal with all those things. I'm nervous about them, this, that, and the third. So okay, fine, right? And in looking at that, we knew I had already planned on probably making another 10 grand in repairs anyway. Right, so I knew that in my calculations. But once we kind of got all of our ducks in a row, figuring out how much the repairs were going to be, estimated, okay, how much, when will we get back on market? Where are we at, as far as the market where it is? My agent pretty much said, well, January and February are going to be slower than usual. And I said, hey, I've got a private money lender that I need to pay back. So I basically signed up with a 12-month term with my private money lender, and I had an end date where I needed to pay him off. So time was of the essence, right? So my issue was really time. I needed to sell the house quick. I didn't want to have any stress, behind being under contract, going back through that loop of inspection issues and things like that. So I kind of just regrouped, circled back, and said, you know what? I have another tool. I can do a wrap, right? I can set up a wrap deal, right? So currently, what's going on in my market, our appraisals are moving really slow. And then we were going to be listing the property in kind of January, February, or a slow period. So what I decided was, okay, let me use something else. Let's do a wrap deal. So the solution that I came up with was to do a wrap deal. Now, what is a wrap deal? A wrap deal is basically when you have two loans in place. Now, you have an underlying loan, and then a second loan gets put in place that wraps around the first loan. So in my case, what I decided to do was to find myself what we call a tenant buyer, right? And that tenant buyer is somebody who lives in the property, but they are actually buying the house. Some folks call it slow flipping. Some folks call it wraps. It goes by a lot of different names. But essentially what happens is I'm technically the owner of the property. And then I find a tenant buyer who comes and buys the property from me as I'm buying it from the bank. And what happens is the bank has their underlying loan, and then I create a wrap loan around the bank's loan, and then I keep the difference or the spread. So I decided to do that. And typically, just make sure you know what a tenant buyer is. A tenant buyer is somebody who typically can't qualify with a bank loan, right? They don't have great credit, but they've got the money, right? They can afford the monthly payment, and they can afford the deposit. So typically going to find people who don't have stellar credit, banks kind of turn them away, but they really want to own a house. So I went and I advertised for a tenant buyer to create this wrap deal. Now, I literally found one in a matter of days, right? So I listed the property on social media, and got bombarded with calls, bombarded with messages for people to see the property. In the course of scheduling, the people to come out and look at it, the very first person that looked at the property says, I want it. I got the down payment. I charged $10,000 for the deposit / down payment. They went ahead and paid that. They were ready to move in. So in the whole thing, I found a tenant buyer in days, got $10,000 up front, but then I went and I refinanced the property to pull out $125,000. Now you may remember that I essentially bought for $75,000. I put about $15,000 in it, so that was $90,000. So then what it allows me to do is it allows me to pull out $35,000 totally tax-free from a refinance perspective. So I went, basically put a note on this property, and I'm going to pay off my private money lender, and that'll take care of my rehab, funds as well. And then I get to have $35,000 additional. But the beautiful part about it is that I'm going to make an additional $500 per month in cash flow, right? So I got $10K plus the $35,000 is basically $45K, and I get to keep the income stream. So it's kind of the best of both worlds. So in that, right, it's kind of when it's all said and done, I was like, why didn't I think about this at first? But honestly, I wanted to try a flip, right? I wanted to, kind of do that as well, just to add that experience. So You may be wondering as you look at this, it's like, okay, that sounds great and everything, but what about foreclosure, Marseille? What happens if this tenant buyer doesn't pay? So what I decided to do was with my tenant buyer, I set them up on a 1-year lease option. And what that does is it basically treats them like a tenant for a year, allows us to get some experience together. And if for some reason they stop paying, they're just a tenant at that point. I can just evict them, right? I can just do the eviction, right? And their deposit, I keep that and I start all over, right? So what happens with that, just to safeguard it, because we don't, sometimes you just don't know, right? Because a person has got some previous issues. And typically the kind of tenant buyer I want is somebody who life has just happened to them. They're not somebody who's, filed for, got like a million late payments, missed payments and foreclosures and things like that. It may be somebody who's either divorced, they could have got sick, right? Because medical bills take a lot of people's finances out, and things of that nature. So those are typically ideal tenant buyers. So what I do to qualify them, I verify their income, verify their employment, run credit. Bad credit is okay, but I still want to see that credit report and understand what those different issues are with their particular credit. So again, though, to kind of safeguard against the whole foreclosure thing, we set them up on a 1-year lease. Now, if they do well at 1 year and then year 3 and they decide to stop paying, well, that's a different story. Now we got to kind of go through more of a foreclosure setup. But the way that a wrap basically works is you have an underlying loan. Just to recap, you have an underlying loan that's going to be me and the bank. And then I'm going to create a second loan with me and the tenant buyer, right? So my tenant buyer pays me, I pay the bank, and then the difference, that $500 difference, is called the spread. That's what I get to keep every single month, and I get my down payment, and on top of that, I have refinanced the property to pull cash back out. So it's basically a BRRRR deal, right? So I did a BRRRR, and then in a wrap all together. The way that you set up and the other thing that I'll have is what we call a land installment contract. So a land installment contract works very similarly to how when you go buy a car, right? You go buy a car, you drive the car, you're the owner of the car for all intents and purposes, but you don't get the title to that car until you make the last payment. A land installment contract works exactly the same way. So that person will make payments over that 30-year course, right? When it's all said and done, we will take the land installment contract, put it in escrow with a lawyer. When it's all said and done, they get the deed to the property. That's essentially the way it works. Now, that particular tenant buyer may clean up their credit in like 5 years and say, you know what, I really don't like paying this extra $500. Now, they don't know what my underlying note is, but they may not necessarily like, they can say, well, I'm paying this amount, right? I can pay a whole lot less. Well, at that point, they've cleaned up their credit. They go to a bank, they refinance their property. Guess what? They buy it from me and I'm out of the deal. So instead of me getting the payments over time, I've still got all that money up front, still had an income stream. So everybody wins, right? So in addition, though, during the whole contract period, one of the reasons that you're able to make more money with a land installment contract is because the tenant is responsible for their own repairs and maintenance. And that's the thing that's important about this, you understand. So that's one of the reasons why the cash flow is higher, is because they're buying the house. If you buy a house, you don't get somebody to cut the grass, you don't get somebody to go and fix leaks, you don't get somebody, just to handle all of those issues. They are responsible for all of those. So that means that I don't have to have a handyman, I don't have to have repairs, and I don't have to have a property manager, because I'm literally a bank, right? So that was kind of the way I dealt with my first flip. It didn't sell, but technically it did. Like, I didn't sell it traditionally, and I made just about the same amount of money, and got to keep, the asset, which is really nice, right? It was really nice to be able to keep the asset. So the thing that I learned that I want to share with you guys is to always, always, always have multiple exit strategies when you purchase a property, right? I went into it as a flip. I already knew, I knew technically in my back pocket, I had the ability to convert to a tenant buyer. Or I could just rent it traditionally. I wouldn't have a whole lot of cash flow, but I wouldn't be in trouble. So my private money lender will be paid off early. He'll be satisfied and happy. Won't have to worry about his, things going wrong. We can go and do other deals, right? All those things are in place. So really, I think it's a win-win. So again, always have multiple exit strategies. If you're kind of concerned, you can always drop me a line, ask me a question. I'll be more than willing to help you. I get people to reach out to me all the time. If you want to learn if you want to know how I found out about wrap deals and lease options and creative financing, I took a really good course. And I'm going to do a review on some of the courses that I've taken. And one of the things I would tell you, always invest in your education. I would never know what a wrap deal was if I hadn't taken a course, right? And I'm not talking about I definitely don't recommend you guys go and take a course from a guru that, you spend $50,000. That's not what I'm talking about. I'm talking about a course that's, $300, $500. But with some of these courses, you get forms, you get examples, you get coaching, you get all these kind of things for a pretty affordable price, right? So I'm working on some stuff to get some, some discounts for you guys. I'm actually I want to get the person who taught me, I took his course, I want to interview him on the channel as well. So once we get that stuff going, I'll plug in, all the details. But the guy I'm talking about, his name is Bill Bronchick. He's really good. He's based out of Colorado. He's actually a lawyer, but he teaches a lot of this stuff. And that's how I learned. I've done a lot of deals and made, really good money through that process. So again, multiple exit strategies are important. They'll help you, right? They helped me a lot in my business. And I hope there's been a value to you. But that's how I survived my first flip that didn't sell, but technically it did. So appreciate you guys tuning in today. If you got questions, drop them in the comment section. I will be more than happy to get them answered for you. I do appreciate you tuning into today's video. If you haven't done so already, make sure you subscribe to the channel. Make sure you subscribe. Make sure you hit that share button, hit that notification button too, because I don't want you to miss out on all the new content that we're bringing out. I'm truly excited about what God has blessed me with, and I want to share that with other people. And I'm wishing you nothing but the best. I'm praying God's success on you, blessings on you and your family. Please stay safe out there. I do appreciate your time today. God bless, and I can't wait to see you again soon.